Do as I say or get lost. Those 6 words still echo in my head like thunder. The way Gemma screamed them, her voice shaking with fury, made the walls of our flat tremble. I remember the way her eyes blazed, not with hurt, not with fear, but with entitlement. Like she owned me, like my money was hers just because I loved her. And that night, standing there in my own living room, surrounded by the smell of burnt dinner and broken trust, something inside me snapped, not in anger but in clarity. For the first time in months, I saw her for who she really was. She didn't want a partner. She wanted control. I smiled a calm, dangerous smile and said softly, "All right then." That's when she realized I wasn't bluffing. I walked into the bedroom, grabbed her suitcases from under bed, and started packing her things. Her voice was still echoing down the hallway, demanding, threatening, pleading, but I was done listening. My hands were steady. My mind was calm. For once, my life wasn't being dictated by someone else's temper. Every folded dress, every shoe, every bit of makeup she'd scattered across my dresser felt like reclaiming another piece of myself. I zipped up the suitcase and dragged it to the door. She followed me, wide-eyed, red-faced. "Liam, what the hell are you doing?" "Exactly what you told me to," I said, meeting her eyes for the first time in what felt like forever. "You said do as you say, or get lost." "Well, I'm not doing as you say." Then I opened the door, carried her luggage outside, and threw it onto the lawn. The sound of that suitcase hitting the ground was the sound of freedom. "You can't be serious," she screamed. I just smiled faintly and said, "Completely serious. Get lost, Gemma." And with that, I closed the door. I stood there for a long moment, forehead resting against the cold wood. My heart was pounding, my hands trembling, not from rage, but from release. Outside, I heard her pounding on the door, calling me every name she could think of. Then silence. Through the peephole, I watched her stuffing her bags into her car, shouting into her phone, probably calling her mother. Then she drove off. The taillights disappeared into the dark, and I finally exhaled. You ever have a moment where peace feels foreign? That's what it felt like. The quiet was almost loud. For 2 years, Gemma and I had been together. The first year was bliss, passion, laughter, road trips, lazy weekends where we'd stay in bed till noon. She made me feel alive, confident, like I'd finally met my match. But somewhere along the line, that love started to rot. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It began with little comments. "You're really buying that brand? You should spend more on me. Liam, I'm your girlfriend, not your roommate." At first, I laughed them off. Everyone jokes about money in relationships, right? But then she stopped joking. She started demanding. We didn't share accounts. I wasn't stupid. This was my flat long before she moved in 8 months ago. We'd agreed she'd cover the groceries and utilities while I paid the mortgage and handled bigger expenses. Seemed fair, except suddenly she couldn't afford her share. Every month, there was a new excuse. Work was slow, bills were high, unexpected expenses. Yet somehow, there was always enough money for her new clothes, nails, and brunches with Nicola. Still, I let it slide, because when you love someone, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself it'll get better. It never does. The final straw came the night. I told her I got a bonus from work. I wasn't bragging, just happy. I thought maybe we could use a little for something we both needed, or maybe save it for a trip later. Her eyes lit up instantly. "Oh, you know that spa weekend Nicola mentioned? We have to go. And there's this necklace I've been eyeing." "Hold on," I interrupted. "Maybe we should save most of it. Be practical." Her face dropped like I just insulted her. "Practical? Are you serious? You get extra cash and your first thought isn't treating me." "It's my bonus, Gemma. We can do something nice, but I'm not spending all of it right away." Her jaw tightened. "Don't you want to be happy?" "This isn't about happiness. It's about responsibility." That's when she lost it. Full-blown shouting, accusing me of being selfish, ungrateful, cheap. She threw in the ultimate guilt trip. "If you really love me, you want to make me happy. Your colleagues' girlfriends get gifts. Why don't you care about me like that?" And then the ultimatum, do as I say or get lost. She didn't expect me to call her bluff, but I did, and that's when everything changed. It's funny. I thought that night was the end of the story. I thought she'd go, maybe send a few angry texts, and move on. 3 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something made me pick up. Liam, came a trembling voice, thick with tears. How could you do that to her? It took me a second. Then it hit me. Sharon, Gemma's mom. Sharon. I asked cautiously, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" she shrieked. "My daughter, you kicked her out on the street with nothing. How could you?" I sighed. That's not exactly what happened. She's been sleeping on my couch, crying her eyes out. You're a monster. She told me you got a big bonus and refused to help her pay her car bill. I laughed bitterly. That's not true. She wanted a spa trip and jewelry. That's what the argument was about. You men are all the same. Sharon snapped. She loved you, and you humiliated her. Sharon, she screamed in my face about how I should spend my money. That's not love. That's manipulation. Apologize to her, she demanded. Bring her back. She deserves an apology. No, I said firmly. That's not happening. You'll regret this, Liam, she shouted and hung up. I stood there, staring at my phone. A few minutes later, it started buzzing again. Text after text. First from Gemma. You'll regret this. We can fix this, baby. Please call me. Then from Sharon. You broke her heart. She's crying her soul out because of you. You owe her compensation for emotional distress. That one made me laugh out loud. Compensation? For what? For trying to hijack my bank account? I blocked them both. For a couple of days, it was quiet. Then came the real shock. An email alert popped up, Amazon. Declined $500 gift card purchase. My heart stopped. I hadn't bought anything. Then it clicked. Gemma was still logged into my account on her laptop. That was it. The final confirmation that she wasn't done. I immediately signed out of every device, changed every password, locked down my bank, my credit cards, everything. The next morning, my letting agent called. Hi, Liam. Odd question. Did your fiancé call us yesterday? Said there was a leak and needed emergency access to property. My blood ran cold. She's not my fiancé, I said through clenched teeth. And if she shows up, don't let her in. The agent hesitated. Already handled it. We refused. But just a heads up, she was very convincing. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just drama anymore. This was an attack. And I wasn't about to let her win. The morning after I found out Gemma tried to sneak into my flat, the city looked different. Maybe it was me, the way betrayal strips the color from everything. Even my coffee tasted bitter, like it knew. I sat on the couch staring at the sunlight crawling across the floorboards, thinking about how easily love can turn into war. One day you're sharing breakfast. The next, you're changing passwords and checking your locks twice. Then my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. You can't ignore me forever. Gemma. I deleted it without replying. Seconds later, another arrived. You think you can humiliate me and walk away? You'll see. That one made me pause. Because there was something in the way she wrote it, not heartbreak. Threat. I scrolled through her social media, out of curiosity. She'd post a photo of herself at a cafe. All smiles captioned. A queen never explains herself. My stomach twisted. The comment section was full of her friends cheering her on. Then I saw one from her father, Mike. Proud of you, sweetheart. That did it. I took a screenshot of her post and sent it to him with one line. You might want to ask your daughter where she spent the night before posting this. I didn't even have to wait 10 minutes before the fireworks began. My phone rang again. Mike's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then another message popped up, from Gemma this time. How dare you text my dad? You're disgusting. I could almost hear her screaming. But here's the thing. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to protect myself. Because I knew what she was capable of. And I wasn't going to let her paint me as the villain. That evening, I met my best friend Nate for drinks. He's been my sounding board since college. The kind of guy who calls you an idiot but still buys the next round. He listened quietly as I told him everything. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "Mate, you dodged a bullet. She's manipulative as hell." "Yeah," I said, tracing the rim of my glass. "But she's not done. I can feel it." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "She's angry, embarrassed. That's a dangerous mix." Nate shook his head. "Then stay alert. And if she crosses a line again, document everything." That night, I took his advice seriously. I installed a camera at my door, backed up my messages, screenshots, and call logs, just in case. Good thing I did. 2 days later, I woke up to a dozen missed calls from my HR manager. My heart sank. I called back immediately. "Liam," she said, her voice tight, "we received an anonymous complaint accusing you of workplace harassment." My blood ran cold. "What? That's insane." "It included screenshots of supposed messages you sent to a female colleague. We're required to investigate." I barely heard the rest. My head was spinning. Screenshots? Fake ones? Then it hit me. Gemma. She knew where I worked. She knew the names of my coworkers. She had old photos, texts, enough to fabricate something believable. "Can you send me what you received?" I asked. When the email arrived, I opened it with shaking hands. There were fake messages, all written in my tone, my phrasing, except they weren't mine. They were crude, suggestive, disgusting. Attached were cropped screenshots of my old chats with Gemma, spliced together to make it look like I'd sent inappropriate texts to another woman. I could barely breathe. The HR manager said the company would put me on leave pending investigation. I hung up, my chest tight, pulse hammering. Gemma had gone nuclear. For hours, I paced the flat, rage boiling in my veins. Then something in me snapped again. But this time it wasn't despair. It was purpose. If she wanted war, she was going to get one. I called Nate. "I need your help," I said. He showed up 20 minutes later, half-dressed, coffee in hand. "What's up?" She tried to ruin my career. Fake messages. Sent them to HR. He blinked. "You're kidding." "I wish." He rubbed his chin. "All right, you've got security cameras now, right?" "Yeah." "Good. Keep everything. We're going to play this smart. No angry texts. No threats. Just facts." So that's what I did. I gathered every message Gemma had ever sent me. Every argument, every photo, every recording I had kept from our fights when I'd started realizing something was off. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about defense. I sent everything to HR, the real messages, the timestamps, the context. It took 3 days, but finally they called back. "Liam," my manager said, "we've reviewed everything. The screenshots were fabricated. You're cleared." Relief flooded through me, then fury, because even though I was cleared, she tried to destroy my name, my reputation, my livelihood. That night, I stared at my reflection in the mirror and said aloud, "No more. No more fear. No more silence. No more being the nice guy who forgives." It was time to turn the tables. The next phase of my plan started quietly. I didn't yell, didn't text, didn't threaten. Instead, I started collecting truth. Gemma had always been messy with her secrets. She'd leave her iPad unlocked when she was living with me. I remembered she used a predictable password pattern for all her accounts, her dog's name, and her birth year. Out of curiosity, I tried logging into her public blog again, and it worked. Same password. There was her hidden posts written under a pseudonym, detailing her toxic ex, me, and her new business opportunity. That's when I learned she'd been scamming people online. Fake clothing drops, pre-order scams, never shipping anything. Dozens of angry comments, all deleted within hours. I took screenshots of everything. Every post, every payment receipt linked to her PayPal. Then I did something bold. I contacted one of the victims. A woman named Harper replied to my email almost instantly. "Oh my God, are you saying you know her?" I told her what had happened. We talked for hours. Turns out Gemma had taken nearly $2,000 from her. Harper had already filed a police report, but nothing had happened yet. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. A week later, the police called. "Mr. Hayes," the officer said, "we'd like to speak with you about a report involving Miss Gemma Price. Is now a good time?" I almost smiled. Perfect time. I handed them everything. Screenshots, bank logs, her fake profiles, even the fake HR messages. They listened carefully, nodding. "We had multiple complaints about her," the officer said. "You've been very helpful." When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. But peace never lasts long when you're dealing with someone like her. 2 nights later, I came home to find a note taped to my door. "You think you've won? Watch your back." No signature. But I didn't need one. My security camera had caught everything. Her face, her car, her rage. I sent the footage to the officer handling her case. The next morning, they called again. "We've issued a restraining order," he said. "She won't be bothering you anymore." For the first time in months, I slept without checking the door twice. You'd think that's where it ends. But stories like this don't fade quietly. 3 months later, I got a call from Nate. "You sitting down?" "Why?" "Check the news. Search her name." I did. And there it was. Local influencer charged with fraud and harassment. Her photo was right there. The same smile she used to post on Instagram. The same eyes that once made me believe in forever. She'd been arrested for online scams, harassment, and identity fraud. I started documenting everything. Every text, every email, every attempted charge. Screenshots, written statements, timestamps. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart. I kept it all in a folder on my laptop labeled "For My Sanity." Next, I overhauled every security measure. 2-factor authentication, lockdown credit, fraud alerts. I even bought a small safe for my documents. Then I boxed up the last of her things, books, chargers, trinkets, and texted her one final message. Attempts to access my accounts and property are documented. Your remaining belongings are boxed. Let me know by Friday when to collect them or they'll be disposed of. No reply. Friday came and went. Sunday morning, I left the box by the communal bins, snapped a photo, and sent it to her before blocking her number for good. But peace was temporary. A few weeks later, I got a bill in the mail for a high-end clothing subscription, $300 under my name. Only problem? I'd never signed up. Turns out Gemma had used my address months ago, possibly my card, for some buy now, pay later fashion service. After I updated my details post-breakup, the payments bounced. They came after me for it. That was the last straw. I called the company, explained the situation, sent proof of her moving out date, and filed a fraud report. They removed my name, confirmed they'd pursue her instead. Meanwhile, Nicola was still spreading stories until someone finally called her out. Why was she so invested in my breakup? Another friend confirmed she'd been exaggerating everything. Her credibility tanked overnight. Gemma's smear campaign collapsed just like that. A month passed. Silence. Beautiful, uninterrupted silence. Then word started trickling back through mutual friends. Gemma was still living with Sharon, who was rapidly running out of patience. Hosting your unemployed, debt-collecting daughter indefinitely isn't exactly a dream. The poor, heartbroken act only worked for so long before reality set in. The irony? She'd built her whole world around control, mine specifically, and now she had none. There was no dramatic showdown, no police knocking on my door. Just the quiet satisfaction of watching her life unravel at the seams she'd stitched herself. Was it revenge? Maybe in a poetic sense. But it wasn't about payback. It was about peace. She screamed, manipulated, lied, and even tried to steal. In the end, all she got was block numbers, unpaid bills, and a shrinking list of people who believed her. Me? I bought that new TV I'd mentioned the night everything exploded. Ordered a curry, cracked open a beer, and sat there watching the screen glow across my quiet living room. No yelling, no guilt trips, just silence and a sense of freedom so deep it almost felt unreal. Did I ever feel bad? Occasionally. She wasn't all bad, at least not at first. But then I remember her voice, sharp and venomous, shouting, "Do as I say or get lost." She got lost, and I found peace.